soup then, eh? Well, we've got some nice fish in it. We put an egg in it with the shell and stuff.
There's an egg?
Like that.
It's a fish and egg soup? Oh my god, yes.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
And I was there. Yeah.
I farted and now my undies are heavy. Will you change my diaper? I have stinky poo-poo in my diaper.
Yeah, you were fired. Unacceptable.
Our Lady of Guadalupe, ripped from Antonia's necklace.
Fired. Hey, Bill. What just happened? You snake, don't you fucking dare. Don't you fucking dare. No, 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 no! You. He was coming for me! Hi, sir. Very artsy. Okay, bye. Stop it. Get out. No fuck. Let me shoot him, please! He's right behind us! Why doesn't it work? Run, girl! Ah! Didn't do well. Oh, fuck.
Oh my god.
Fuck off. What was that timing? That person ran in front of me right when you did that. That was the worst fucking thing. My fucking nerves. My hands are shaking. Maybe snacks and contact solution. The dangers of smoking marinara means that my eyes just start hating life about halfway through stream. I'm not going. Thanks, Chunk. Chunk says, do your eyes hurt? Okay. Duck feet. Oh, no. We're gonna erase that. That didn't happen at all, and you can't prove it.
Like, pass the train.
God. Okay, these are not stairs. Fuck! I hate it here. I hate it here. I hate it here. Fuck!
The 1993 can't cook. All they know is Thursday food, eat McDonald's, twerk, be bisexual, eat hot chip, and lie.
Oh my god! I don't know if your shield's working anymore. Kick it! Oh, he's gonna get wormy. Quick, Ashley, run! That man's got worms.
Great. I'll do some research on the pest control van and the knockout gas, and I'll be in touch.
I feel like I need a wacky, like,
I'll call you when everything's ready.
cartoon freeze. I don't know why I started making wah noise.
What? My rep don't count for nothing no more.
Yeah, it's my wacky cartoon noise. Wah, wah, wah.
I'll call you.
Don't fuck it up, Ricky Pee-Pee. It's me, a cartoon duck with a mustache. Wah. She's twerking. Ma'am? Are you going? She's throwing it back. Look at her go. Look at her go. What are you doing? Are you good? What are your legs doing? Are you just floating around? She's doing a zombie twerk. Oh god, that guy's still up. We gotta go. Sir? I really, oh right, because I don't have a I don't have a knife anymore. No, drop down. No, it was very calm. Oh no, I don't want this. No, don't run at me. I'm gonna fucking cry. No. Why don't I have bullets ready? No. Oh, Leon, we've made a terrible mistake. Leon, we gotta go. Leon, you gotta, like, move. We gotta get back under there. Reload your fucking shotgun. We gotta give me the shotgun. I need my shotgun. I need comfort. Reload your gun. Is that man gonna follow me under here? I'm gonna throw up if that thing starts crawling after me. Hey guy. Where'd that wormy dude go? Yeah, him. That guy. I was looking for him. It's good because I'm out of bullets. But I got this. It wasn't successful. Alright. Can you do that? Did 911 not work? No, no, no. Did I just run at this man? I'm not supposed to be here. There's not supposed to be a chainsaw guy here. Oh, I'm gonna fucking vomit. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. Oh, nothing's safe. Nothing's safe. Stop! 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 I don't have enough ammo for this. Sir? 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 Kick her! I hate the chainsaw man. Better. Hail Satan!
Wilkela just resubscribed for 3 months.
It's my birthday.
Don't be suspicious. 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 Don't be suspicious.
Making my way downtown, moving slow, cause I'm a giant clown. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh, stop it. Put that down. Oh my god, we gotta go. Oh my god, we gotta go. Stop it. Stop, 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 stop. Go away. I didn't say it for a while. Really just made that emote. I'm glad it went through. Not emote. Oh god, I did smoke too much marijuana before starting this. Anywho. The internet anymore. I don't want to hear about me just breathing weirdly into the microphone. I'm openly weeping. Welcome to my stream. I'm a professional. Okay, but for real, how many nights are there? Is it like a week that I have to survive? There's no way that this game can be that long. Like further than that, right? Okay. This man is talking. He's saying blah blah blah, something about animatronics, blah blah blah. You should probably check them, blah blah blah. All here still. 5 nights. Oh. Is it 5 Nights at Freddy's? Is it 5 Nights at Freddy's? How do I have to survive in 5 Nights at Freddy's? I'm fired. There's 420 mode, but it's not happy? In 5 Nights at Freddy's? I cannot believe myself. Really just sitting here saying how many nights do I have to do this? It's literally in the time. We gotta go. Oh. Girl, I don't need you to tell me to watch out. I'm aware that everyone is shooting me and trying to kill me. Oh my god. I fucking hate this area. You guys, I'm having a super not cool time. Candy has got some fucking legs. Whoever made this wanted to bang a monkey. Okay, well that was your fault.
Here, you dance, I'll read.
My brain can't do that many
Why don't you
things.
get me a Pepsi? And she goes, no, you're on drugs. I go, Mum, I'm okay. It's just thinking. She goes, no, you're not thinking.
I'm
You're on
going to
drugs."
reach.
Normal people don't act that
Is
way.
it on
I
the
go,
bone?
Mum, Just give me a Pepsi, please. All I want
Yes
is a
or
Pepsi.
no?
She wouldn't
Are
give
you
it to me.
able to hear me?
All I wanted was a Pepsi. Just one Pepsi.
Excellent.
Just a Pepsi.
Once upon a
What a way to
midnight
start.
dreary well
Hi,
I
Rad.
pondered
Welcome
we-
in. Just a Pepsi. Hi, Hugo. Hi. Oh, God. I know I was pronouncing this correctly when you rated me. Shen? Am I saying that right? Amersu? I was saying one part of it correct. Hopefully I'm getting part of it. Hi. Welcome in, friends. Happy Thursday. Hello to anybody that may be lurking in the background. I hope you're having a solid day. If you are at work, I hope your work day is going good. If you are not at work, I hope you're having a fucking solid day. It is a rainy, overcast, kind of gloomy day here in Canada. And I'm okay with that because I like the rain. Pumpkin is not okay with it. She doesn't like the rain. So she's been curled up all morning. She demands to be tucked in. All she wants to do is sleep when it's rainy, which is pretty cute for a dog. So I don't know. I like it. My garden likes it. I have a bunch of flowers that have started blooming in my wildflower section that I planted this year. I saw my very first sunflower bloom this morning out of all my sunflower seeds that I planted. So I'm very excited. I harvested some strawberries yesterday and some little chunks of kale. And like my first snap pea, so we're starting to get there. I'm okay with the rain because it makes everything so green. I don't mind the gloom. Personally. I don't know. I know some people don't like the gloomy weather, especially in summertime. You feel like you're getting a little bit robbed of your sunshine, but I'm a gal who grew up in Portland, Oregon, so I love the rain. It reminds me of home. And we don't usually get rainy weather here in Canada, in the areas that I'm at. I'm in the prairies. And we've been getting so much rain, it's actually becoming problematic, which, you know, my basement's been flooding and stuff. If you're in Discord, you've probably been seeing photos of that because I've had to cancel a couple streams because my shit be flooding. Please register my controller, you son of a... Do your job. Y'all, I bought myself these new little, like, headphones, some Bluetooth earbud headphones, because I was like, I want to be able to have different headphones on from when I stream and I don't want my hair to get crushed, right? So I bought myself these little fucking things. These little dudes, right? And I tell you, I got so goddamn frustrated trying to set them up earlier before stream that I angry cried and I almost cried off my makeup, and that's how I know my period is coming soon. One day I'll figure out how to set up those headphones and then I'll be able to stream in a way that my hair will look nicer. None of my technology is feeling me today. Okay, maybe we don't play this game with the controller. Fuck it. YOLO. I agree with that, Red. I love Garbage, and I love that song.
Hi everyone, welcome in. My name is Pitchy.
Hi, Pitchy. It scared me again. I'm the one who sets up my own audio alerts, and then I'm afraid of them. Why am I like this? I gotta move this upcoming stream thing. Hi, Pitchy. Welcome in, my friend.
Carl!
See, Carl, that's a great one. That's a great example of me setting up an audio alert that scares myself. Hi, Carl. You have these exact ones and you can't get them to connect to your PC? I got them to connect to my PC, but then I found they would be playing audio, but it wasn't actually like playing anything. And then after getting very angry and crying a little bit and going and making myself brunch, because I was like, I'm getting way too mad about this, I went back to it and I realized that they are working, but they only play if I like tilt my head in a very specific pattern. So I have to like sit like this and basically never move my head ever to get maybe an inkling of audio out of them, which is pretty fucked because I just got them and I don't want them for my phone. I don't need them for my phone. I want them for stream. So I had a little angry cry about it and I ate some cereal and I got better. We moved on and now I'm here with all y'all. What a lovely day. Yeah, I'd rather have less sun as well. I love gloomy shit. Like, I like the sun too, don't get me wrong, I need the sun. But I'm a gloomy bitch. Yeah, and that's what I was kind of wondering too, Pitchy. I was like, I don't actually know where the Bluetooth sensor is in this PC. Because this was a pre-built one that I got. I didn't build this one myself. So I was wondering if it might have something to do with that. And the stuff that I was looking up online was sort of saying that the sensor for those headphones are in the left ear. And like my PC is on the right side of my computer, so I don't know if there's some fucking interference. I'll see. I'll look at it again when I'm getting less angry. You know? You don't miss the 100+ degree days? That's fair, Red. That's too fucking hot. And I can see how that'd be really good for your phone, especially when you're like just doing restocking and you just want to listen to music and you jam. And I'm sure I'll appreciate them for that too. Because I do have one of the newer iPhones that are only supposed to be like the iPod Airbud bullshit, and I refuse to buy those. So I haven't had headphones to listen to with my music in a while. And it might be nice for gardening. We'll see. The Bluetooth sensor is the part of the network chips on the mobile. Oh, okay. I wonder. I'll have to play around with it. I have been kind of like pondering about moving my whole stream setup around and like moving my desk around on my PC, but that sounds like a whole fucking thing. But maybe one day. Anyway, I hope everyone is having a great Thursday. You're almost to the weekend. You can do this. I believe in you. Oh, I could get a Bluetooth adapter that plugs into my USB port. Okay. I'm going to be blunt and say I do not have a lot of USB ports to spare. That's like my number one issue with streaming. I had to intentionally make sure that this new PC that I got had more USB ports than my last one did because I had a problem with that. And then I had to buy, oh my God, what do you call it? A wall plug, electric plug thing. What the fuck do you call it? Whatever. The outlet that has a bunch of different plugins. Power strip. I don't know. Whatever. The power strip thing that I have that also has USBs in it. So I don't know. It's good to know that there's lots of options though, Red. Thank you. I appreciate your wisdom. My lovely friends, we are going to try out Detroit Become Human today, and I'm really excited because I really like these games. I've never played Detroit Become Human, but I have played Heavy Rain, which I played on stream, which was a blast. I'm like, I had pre-ordered Heavy Rain back when it came out, and I got like all the little what was it, the paper crane that you got with that? So like I was a hardcore fan. And I also pre-ordered Beyond Two Souls back in the day and played that one and loved that one. So I'm really excited to finally get into this one. And I hope my computer doesn't explode trying to play it. Everyone, cross your fingers. I'm going to boot it up. I'm going to switch over. First, I'm going to switch over because I feel like switching scenes and booting at the same time makes my computer angry. Then we're going to just try and mitigate as many things as possible here. Okay, we're going to launch it, and then we're going to smoke a bowl. I'm not going to drop my bowl. I feel like I'm very butterfingers today. I keep throwing things on accident. Like I was setting up my, my green screen for today, and it got so angry that like I lost the little top clip for it. Oh, the encoding is mad. Yeah, I'm going to have to definitely turn down a bunch of stuff in this game because I can see that it's making my stream so angry right now. But yeah, the little top connector, I don't know, washer thing that goes on the top of my green screen, I accidentally yeeted it across my room and then I couldn't find it for a little while. It was upsetting. Okay, we're going to let it compile shaders. Yeah, I could boot it. That would make it feel better, right? Wow, it's really angry. 15 frames per second, man. Okay. Android Showcase. We're definitely going to have to turn down the graphics once I actually get into that portion of the game. That was my only concern with this, because usually I play much more intensive games on my consoles, and then I like stream them into here, and it kind of makes my PC less angry. This is kind of brutes. It's okay. We're going to sit here and we're going to live in Japland. Okay, we're 10% into Chopland. So there's a bunch of androids. The other thing I usually do, which would have been smart, and I didn't do today because I was busy getting angry about my headphones, is that usually before I first time boot a game for stream, I won't do what I'm doing right now, which is waiting until I actually go live to boot it for the first time. I should have booted this before I started going live, and then I could have gone in here and fixed my settings. And alas, I wonder if it'd be better if I was in the BRB screen. No, because then it would probably have even more assets to try and push through, right? We're just going to sit here in silence and stare at this compilation. Look at it. It's slowly going. GJ200. Better than a friend. Advanced dialogue functions, more than 40,000 discussion topics. Dozens of possible moods. Funny, comforting, enlightening, challenging. Knows more than 2,000 card games and more than 20,000 jokes. Organizes cultural activities and outings. MJ100. Perfect friend for your pet. Can manage more than 3,500 species of animals from dogs to orangutans. Orangutans? Why is it spelled so weird? The perfect assistant. Organizes your trips and outings. 24/7 availability. Okay, I think I might move us to the BRB screen just for a moment, just to see if it helps with this. But we'll be right back, okay? It's got to be better than just watching the choppy show.
Over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. His
But some of the extra ones should... I'm gonna go... It's immediately worse. It's immediately so much worse, y'all. And I realized it's because now it's trying to play videos and made it much angrier. So instead we're just gonna stare. You're gonna just stare into my eyes. What are we gonna talk about today? Did you all know that I got a fish from my little pond out back? I named it Fishy Joe. It's a little goldfish. It's a comet goldfish. I went to go buy my goldfish for my pond after realizing what I thought were tadpoles in the pond are not tadpoles and are instead mosquito larvae, which upsetting. And everyone was like, y'all need a fish, get a fish. Blood, I am here, but I am living in choppy land right now while this game compiles the shaders very slowly. So my frames are a little intense. So I'm telling you stories about my fish while we wait for this to load until I can inevitably get into the settings and turn it down so I'm not Mrs. Chop Salat. That's me currently. Hello, Blood. I hope you are doing good. I hope you and Cinematic are having a lovely Thursday. Anyway, back to stories about my fish. So I got this fish. Okay. Because of all the mosquito larvae. So I went to the store to go get a fish, and I looked up what kinds of fish would be best for it, and I did some research. And everyone was like, goldfish that are quote unquote bullet shaped are the best kind of fish to put in a tank, I guess, that are specifically for like outdoor ponds and they won't get too big, yada yada. So I went on a quest to go get like a bullet shaped goldfish, and I got there and I talked to this lady and she was helping me and it was great. And she got me some fish plants first and I didn't know what they were, but we shoved them in there. And they look good so far. And she told me it was only her second day at work and that they had given her a large task of trying to like take care of all the tanks by herself, but didn't give her clear instructions on what she was supposed to be doing. So she was a little stressy and I was like, girl, you're crushing it. You know more about fish than I do. So she was helping me get my fish and I wanted to get one of the little cheap guys, but there were none of the cheap guys left. And she told me that some dude had come in the day beforehand and bought all 450 fish of the cheap ones for like his tank that he stocks every year. Anyway, it was whack. I had to buy myself a very fancy $10 fish instead. That fish's name is now Fishy Joe. And Fishy Joe lives in my pond out back, living its best enriched fishy life. Honestly, I don't like fish. Like, they kind of freak me out. The ocean kind of scares me. But I did feel very kind and like overwhelmed when I realized I put my little fish in his pond and it was all happy and like ready to go and he was swimming around. And the tank that I had gotten it from in PetSmart was just like a clear tank and there was nothing in it except for like one other fish. And like no gravel, no plants, no nothing. Just a fucking tank. And Little Fish Man went from that to, you know, like a custom pond that had like aquatic stuff in it and like he was outside and he got to experience rain and he has little fishy hiding holes in all the rocks and stuff. It was very cute. I felt very fulfilled.
Hello.
Oh.
Welcome to the Detroit Experience. I'm an android and I'll be your hostess. Before we begin,
got my nose,
let's make some adjustments to
my
optimize
mouse
your
right up her nose.
experience.
Okay, well, I gotta say my frame rate went back up. And yes, 5 frames per second is definitely better than no frames per second. It looks fine. I think stream has returned to normalcy. We have regained normalcy. I wonder if it'll be okay going forward. I think I'm gonna see if I can still try and turn it down a bit though. Okay. We got our subtitles on because we love subtitles in this hole.
Please adjust your screen settings.
Okay, Android. Adjust value until center icon is barely visible. We're putting it at 30 pitch.
Thank you. Now select your profile.
I want an immersive gameplay with advanced controls. A fair challenge where mistakes mean losing a character. I want to focus on the story with simpler controls. A more forgiving challenge with fewer chances to lose a character. We're going experienced. Everyone's probably going to die.
You are now ready to begin Detroit.
Brace
Remember,
yourself.
This is not just a story. This is our future.
I don't know what that means. August 15th, 2038. Oh shit, y'all, we're in the future. Should I move myself? Am I in a good corner? Okay, I gotta pay attention, otherwise my android self might die.
Negotiator on site. Pete, negotiator on site.
Oh shit, I'm in control? Ah shit, I'm in control. Okay, whoa, flowchart. What else can we do here? Yeah, 30 is good. Don't do more than that. We don't need ultra. We don't want my computer to explode. Audio, we're good. We're on headphones. Okay. I am Detroit. Listen, Blood, I thought this was a movie. What do you mean I have to play the game? I didn't know I was in charge yet.
No, stop. I can't leave her.
Whoa, wait, what am I doing? Phillips John. Phillips Caroline. Phillips Emma. Okay. Dang, they got plants here. Somebody crying. Oh shit.
Please, please, you gotta save my little girl. Wait. You're sending an android?
All right, ma'am. You need to go.
You can't do that. Why aren't you sending a real person? Joel, is that thing here?
Oh. Oh my god, find Captain Allen. Okay, he's that guy. Excuse me.
I don't give a shit. My men are ready to step in. Just give the order.
Excuse me, hi, I'm the android.
Fuck.
Hello? Are you the guy? You look like the guy. Hi, are you the guy? My android says, my android detection skills say that you are the guy.
Captain Allen, my name is Connor. I'm the android sent by CyberLife.
It did escalate very sharply from they have a bunch of very nice plants.
It's firing at everything that moves. It already shot down 2 of my men. We could easily get it, but they're on the edge of the balcony. If it falls, she falls.
Is there an android that's taken a child? What the hell?
Do you know if it's been behaving strangely before this?
I haven't got a clue. Does it matter?
I need information to determine the best approach. Do you know its name?
Listen, saving that kid is all that matters. So either you deal with this fucking android now, or I'll take care of it.
Bro, you're not really answering any of my questions. What do you... I got a 48% chance of success? That's not good. Understand what happened. Save hostages at all costs. I don't know what I've done. Okay. Oh my god, is that a gun? Analyze. What do you mean? Left click to analyze. What the fuck? Missing Blackhawk. Okay. Ammunition. Reconstruct? What the fuck? Bro, this is like some cyberpunk shit. Oh my god, I can move around. I feel like I need to smoke significantly more weed to do this game. Okay. Okay. What does that mean? I'm looking at the hands. Deviant took the father's gun. Okay. Alright, okay. I'm assuming a deviant is the robot in question. I can't go any faster. I'm a robot and I have 1 walking. Search hostages room. Okay. Small child, what can I learn from your room? Beep boop. Child did not hear gunshots. Okay. Okay, we're at a 50% probability. That's not a lot better, but what's this? The deviant's name is Daniel. Okay, the robot is the little girl's bestie. The robot has gotten upset. Anything else to look at? What's this? Use my robot eyes. What do I see? Okay. Okay, I feel like I need to move faster. Alright, I'm learning stuff. Oh shit.
All units hold positions. The negotiator's going in.
That guy looked dead. Is that Dad? Analyze the bullet. Left kidney perforated, fatal abdominal trauma. Damn, dude. Lower lung hemorrhage, internal bleeding. I already looked at that one. Deceased. Phillips John. Upper lung. Alright. Reconstruct. Father was holding something. What is this? Alright. He's dead. Confirmed. What's this thing? Bloop.
Your order for an AP700 android has been registered.
Deviant was going to be replaced. Oh no. We have a motive. Robot Daniel thought he was besties with a little girl, obviously.
Holy shit. Cover me while I patch you. Man down. I repeat, man down.
Oh shit, that guy died. Nah, he might not be dead. He may be okay. Everything's fine. I'm doing investigative stuff. Hello. You look dead. Okay, an officer was the first responder. Gunshot residue. He shot one bullet. Deceased. Okay, yes, he's the cop. He got shot directly in the heart. Jesus. Hostage witnessed the shooting. Well, that's not good for a child. Cop shot the deviant. Yeah. What am I? I was like, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the gun. Alright. Alright, y'all, I got a gun. Okay, we got a 77% chance. This is looking a lot better. No one wants to turn that pot off? I'll just make myself a quick sandwich.
Signs, the SWAT team are preparing for an assault, and it's been just over an hour since a little girl was taken hostage on the top floor of a building here in downtown Detroit. Details are still emerging on what exactly happened, but the hostage taker could be the family's android. He may have taken the lives of at least one family member and a police officer. If confirmed, this
would be the first case of an android deliberately taking a human life. Okay. Family was about to have dinner. All right, team, we've learned so many things. What's that over there? We're gonna learn more stuff. Hi, Val. Happy Thursday. Welcome in. I need to analyze. Oh my God. I'm trying to analyze. Do not shoot. Why am I licking that? Fresh blue blood. Android wounded. Okay, they bleed blue. So now I know what kind of model the deviant robot is. We're at a 79% chance. What's this?
We should take down this asshole.
Shut up. I'm doing stuff. Child has one shoe. Hostage could be wounded. Okay. Save hostage at all costs. All right, we're going outside, y'all. We got an 80% chance. I'm feeling fucking good. Hi, get out of my way. Oh, wait, let me look here. We have to look where the hostage is at. Oh, shit. Okay, hostage is definitely wounded. Alright, team, we got an 80% chance. I'm sure there's probably something I could do to bump it up further, but I feel like that's a good odd. I'm gonna go.
Stay back!
Wow.
Don't come any closer or I'll jump!
No, please, I'm begging you!
How do we feel the audio is like, team? Is it good? Is the game too loud?
Hi,
or are
Daniel.
we solid?
My name is Connor. How do you know my name? I know a lot of things about you. I've come to get you out of this. I'm an android, just like you. I know how you're feeling.
What difference does it make if you're an android? You're on their side. You can't understand how I'm feeling. Are you armed?
Yes, I have a gun.
Drop it. No sudden moves.
Should I have lied? I should have maybe lied.
There. No more gun.
Okay, he does feel better about me though.
I know you and Emma were very close. You think she betrayed you, but she's done nothing wrong.
She lied to me. I thought she loved me. But I was wrong. She's just like all the other humans.
Daniel, no!
They were going to replace you, and you became upset. That's what happened, right?
I thought I was part of the family. I thought I mattered. But I was just their toy. Something to throw away when you're done with.
Listen. I know it's not your fault. These emotions you're feeling are just errors in your software.
No. It's not my fault. I never wanted this. I love them. You know? But I was nothing to them. Just a slave to be ordered around. I can't stand that noise anymore. Tell that helicopter to get out of here.
The situation is under control.
There. I did what you wanted. You have to trust me, Daniel. Let the hostage go, and I promise you, everything will be fine.
I want everyone to leave! And I want a car. When I'm outside the city, I'll let her go.
That's impossible, Daniel. Let the girl go, and I promise you won't be hurt.
I don't want to die.
You're not going to die. We're just going to talk. Nothing will happen to you. You have my word.
Okay. I trust you.
Negotiator Bonnie. Oh no! Aww.
You lied to me, Connor. You lied to me.
I didn't know they were gonna just kill him. Well, that's fucked up. Carl, it's by the same people who made that game, yeah. The press X to scream Jason. That is Heavy Rain. Jason! Okay, mission successful, but I killed my android friend, which I feel bad about. Okay, here's the scene's flowchart. Here you can review the paths you've taken, the paths yet to explored, and the possibilities you've unlocked. Each node earns you points that you can spend in the extras. Due to the nature of the game, some nodes and endings will not be counted towards the completion of the flowchart. Well, Damn. I didn't know I was lying to the deviant. I feel like a bad person. I was just trying to be good. Okay, it's now November 5th, 2038. 3:24 p.m. Rebooting.
This is the top-of-the-range household assistant. It cooks 10,000 different dishes.
Come on, Zoe, let's go.
200 languages and dialects. And handles the kids' homework.
Oh my god, I'm in
Good
stores.
afternoon. Can I help you? Please, we're looking for
Surreal. A pre-owned spare parts? That feels kind of fucked up.
I paid $7,999 with a 48 months interest-free credit. And it comes with a 2-year warranty for parts and labor. An excellent choice. If you'll just follow me, we'll process the order.
How much is that one over there?
The MP800 is slightly more expensive, but it has many other functions. Come along and I'll show you.
Slightly more expensive. I don't like this guy.
There it is.
Hello.
It was a bit difficult getting it back in working order.
Me?
It was really messed up. What'd you say happened to it again?
A car hit it. Stupid accident.
Ah, I see.
I don't like
Anyway,
this guy.
it's as good as new now, except that we had to reset it. Meaning we had to wipe its memory. I hope you don't mind.
That'll be fine.
Okay. Did you give it a name?
My daughter did.
AX400, register your name.
Kara.
Kara.
My name is Kara.
My name is Kara and I got hit by a car. That feels a little too on the nose. You know what else was on the nose? The car. Sorry, I don't normally like to text while I'm on stream. It's kind of a pet peeve when creators do it. But one of my besties is very stressed out right now and prepping for an annual art vendor showcase that happens once a year. It's very cool. And she needs help with it, so I'm just securing that. Anyways, hi Kaba. But it was Carly Zell. Carly Zell would absolutely have hit her. Carly Zell don't give a fuck. Hi, Cable. Welcome, Ann. How you doing, friend? Happy Thursday. I gotta find my DJ set to send to her. It sounds so silly to sound out loud. Where are my videos?
Would you like to go home?
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Okay, I'm here. We watched the credits.
Here.
Cable's here. We're ready. Cable, I'm a robot.
Oh, thank you, dear.
And I successfully saved another little girl from getting murdered by a robot, but I killed another robot. Hey, it's that one guy who's in that, what is it, fucking Grey's Anatomy or whatever. I thought this said Bellini Pants Shop for a second. I was like, I'm on a quest to buy pants, but it's actually that I can't read. Retrieve order 847. Okay. What if I wanted to go to the park instead, or am I not allowed to do that? It is 50 Shades of Grey's Anatomy. That's what the robot game is about. Look at these little weird cars. Okay, the year is 2038. Android work ahead. Wait for green light? Oh, I guess I can't. My Android code prevents me from just walking into the street doing things all nilly-willy. I guess that makes sense. I mean, it should. You would hope it would stop me from doing things all nilly-willy. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, sir. I need to walk right here. I can use my built-in GPS, y'all. Can I get a hot dog as a robot? Probably not.
Hey,
I guess.
Move it. You're scaring away my customers.
I'm sorry. Wow. It's only 12 years ahead. I know, it's freaky to think about. I mean, they're definitely trying to push robots, right?
What kind of life is this? A life of plastic and metal?
This man hates me.
With no soul. A pale copy of our creator. Why do you look at me so, demon?
Oh my god.
I know who you are. I can see through you. You are the one by whom the evil will come.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
You are the one who will destroy Detroit.
Oh. That's heavy. Robots with AI psychosis. I mean, that's what's gonna happen to us in our future. But hopefully not. Hopefully we won't reach that point. What? Fashion that lets you monitor your health in real time. Wild. What is it, the paint store? Wait, is this what I need to be going to? Yes. Let me in the paint store. What's up?
Identification verified.
Cool. Create your own colors.
Here is your order number 847. That will be $63.99. Please confirm payment.
I'm paying with my brain. Oh my god.
Payment confirmed.
Wild.
Transaction complete.
I did it. Take the bus home? Alright. I got my paints, y'all. Do you think I'm a painter robot? Use the following key to change the camera angle. Oh shit. Why he do a little spin? That lady has a hot dog. Why can't I have a hot dog? Right, I'm a robot. Sorry, I keep forgetting. Where the fuck is the bus? Oh my gosh. Android parking service. Wild. Don't need an Android. Need money for food. A bot dog. Yeah, where aren't there bot dogs?
What are you doing?
Stealing our jobs.
Pick it up.
We got
Faster.
families to feed, and these androids are taking our place.
Yeah.
Ban the androids!
I didn't do that. Uh-oh.
Where the fuck you going, Tin Can?
Uh-oh, I didn't do it. I'm here getting my paint.
Hey guys, check it out. We got one of those tin cans here.
You gonna bully it?
Look at this little motherfucker. You steal our jobs, but you can't even stand up.
Oh my god, they kicked my robot body.
You ain't going anywhere. We're gonna fuck your bitch ass up. Yeah, waste it.
Do it!
Alright.
These people are rude, blood.
It's enough. Leave it alone.
Let us teach this bastard a lesson.
You damage it, I'm gonna have to find you.
Yeah.
Take your job next.
You can't even stand up.
Okay.
Yeah, that told him.
Let's go. Run along.
You think that they would have a better technique for beating up robots other than just like punching them? Like you don't have like a little, wouldn't you run around with just magnets and try and scramble their brains or something? Not that I'm condoning it. Actually, I don't know how I feel about fucking with AI things. I don't really agree with AI because of what, you know, is happening in the world. But I also don't agree with bullying things. But it's also a machine. I have met Americans, and they would bully a machine. Like, we have an Android compartment, but we're still using a bus with wheels? Make it make sense. That better at least be like an electric bus or fucking powered by corn fuel or something, right? Like, it's probably not. It's like, nope, exactly the same. Keep guzzling all the gas. Shades of color. 66. Marcus took the bus. What do you mean? Was there another route? Damn, could I have not? Staring at the hot dog vendor was a route? That's honestly so fucking funny to me. How many people stared at this fucking hot dog guy? Only 15%. I'm a trendsetter. Oh my god. Whenever people talk about AI rights or whatever, I think about the story of a professor putting googly eyes on a pencil and naming it, passing it around and snapping it, and everyone in the class gasped, and he was like, this is what AI is, it's not alive. And see, that's how they get you. They get you with the empathy, because they make it look like something that you need to empathize with, right? But it's a fucking robot. I keep thinking back on the experiment where some guys made a little hitchhiking robot to travel the world. Right, Carl, I was just going to refer to that. It went perfectly fine everywhere. People were really nice to it, and then it survived like 15 minutes in the US, so they just beat it senseless. Oil lobbying, too powerful. You can still have androids, but you still gotta fucking drive the bus. This is fucking... The hot dog vendor is killing me a little bit. Okay. It's November 5th, 2038. Let's smoke a bowl. Damn, that house is on fire. I know, it's 12 years. It's making me uncomfy. I think it's very interesting to see how people depicted the future and kind of in the years that we're getting into, and how it was like we would have so much technology and we'd be able to do so many things, and instead it's like, yeah, we've used all the technology to make AI so it can pretend to be black people on Instagram and get attention and take attention away from actual people of color, and you know, we're gonna make AI chatbots to replace all the actual people and friends that you have on the internet, because you don't need to talk to them, you need to be lonely and you gotta buy more products, and also everything's made of shit plastic and it gives you cancer. What was Back to the Future meant to be? The second one? I don't remember the second one. 2016? In Back to the Future? Fuck off. Join Todd. Join Todd. Alright. I watched a drop? How did I... Wait, how did I... Earn a drop watching my own channel. Fucking Christ. Yeah, they had hoverboards and shit, right? Where's my hoverboard?
You've been gone for 2 weeks, so the place is a mess.
I can't afford a
You do the
house and I
housework,
have
the
no
washing, you
hoverboards.
cook the meals, and you take care of... God damn it, where the fuck's the brat gone
2015. That is somehow worse.
Alice!
Where's it? Where is
Alice! Oh, there you are. That's Alice. You look after her. Homework, bath, all that crap. Got it?
it? Okay.
Yes, Todd.
Get started down here, then you do upstairs.
In theory, I should have broken my leg using a hoverboard 10 years ago. 12 years from now, you still can't have shit in Detroit. Yes, it was a good one. It was a good joke. It was excellent. Why have I not broken my leg yet? Do you want to break your leg, bullshit?
TV
In 12
on.
years, the name Alice is making a comeback. No shit. You're telling me it's not like Apple or something? It would be Alice, but it would be spent with like all of the wrong fucking letters, you know? Oh, I see. I see. We want a hoverboard. Yes. So you can break your leg. Yes. I need to collect trash. Okay. Okay. Oh shit, we have an ad starting in 10 seconds. I'm gonna panic and sit here. Okay, I'm gonna wait to reply to chat until we're back from the ad. I'm just gonna look around this man's house and look at trash. Na 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 na. What is this? Oh, it's the trash. Collect trash, clean kitchen, clean counter, clean coffee table.
Yeah.
Trash. Trash.
Maybe. Depends on what you need.
I cleaned a counter.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot of pizza boxes, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I'll bring it tomorrow. Yeah, same place. You know where.
This man's a drug dealer. Okay, I think the ad break is over. Everyone should be back. Thank y'all. I appreciate you. You missed me picking up trash. Okay. What did I miss in chat? We want a hoverboard. We want a hoverboard before we get too fat to ride it. Yes. Carl is gonna come back. Dungeon crawl, Carl. Dungeon crawl. Dungeon crawler, Carl. Why am I having a hard time with that? Woo. Romantasy names are big right now. Those are gonna be the big names. Yeah, everyone's gonna name their kid Fear or whatever the fuck that name is in stupid Avatar. 12 years, every kid is gonna be named Mr. Beast Presents Jason, sponsored by Stink. Fucking, I hope not, man. Oh my god, I live at 42003. 423, 420, 423. Alright, I took out the trash, y'all. You forgot to ask what the special stream is? It's gonna be a really special stream that may or may not involve a fun costume and some fun special things that we haven't done in a while. And I would encourage y'all to be here for it.
Fuck, man.
Otherwise, it is a special stream of mystery. Small child, why are you hiding? That is the neighborhood from Barbarian. Oh my god, I can't speak Barbarian. This is the neighborhood from Barbarian. 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 The dishwasher is not working, man. I'm ordering it. What the fuck is wrong with this man? Coming soon from Neil Green, Barbarian. I'm gonna do dishes and ignore this man making weird fucking noises in the other room. And the child hiding. I'm not involved with that. If what you can say what you heard from the Romantasy name. fairy from Akatar. This noise means Pennywise is nearby. What's wrong with this man? Are you good, homie? Is your beer on fire? Is your... Okay, whatever. MST is too high. Yes, it is 2 hours behind EST. You are correct, Carl. I'm doing the dishes and I'm hammering D. This is how you do the dishes. Little girl, are you done? You hiding underneath the thing now? That's fair. It looks like your life sucks, and I'm sorry for that. Can't wait to have my groceries delivered by Omega Knot in 2038. Hopefully with a goddamn hoverboard, okay? Yes, Carl! Put a reminder on your stream schedules. Wait, on your...
Carl!
That's my
Yes, Todd?
my
Bring
stream
me a cold
schedule.
beer.
Put it on your calendar
Right away.
that I'm doing something weird on July 25th around 12 p.m. MST. You have to work that day, Pitchy. I'm so sorry. Call in sick. Just kidding. Don't do that. I've had to move it like 3 times so far. We'll see. Who in the hell? Who in the hell? Here's your beer, bud. You have a butane lighter on the coffee table? Watching this hockey. Damn. The fuck is this thing over here? Does he have a robot vacuum cleaner too? This is bullshit. I want a robot vacuum cleaner. So in the future of 2038, you will have a robot vacuum cleaner and you can afford a robot maid slash, I don't know, child rearer. But you will still sit and use like your TV's not even mounted, man. Can I escape? What if I just leave? Bye. What's out here? Take down laundry. Oh, okay. I'm doing what I'm supposed to anyways. I'm so good at my job. Do I need like a basket or something? That makes sense. Hello, small child.
You like playing out here? Aren't you going to school today?
She's saying no school. Alright, I guess I gotta go fucking rewash this laundry now. Damn, I'm doing laundry. What is that? That is not laundry. Red ice, acetone, lithium, therium. Drugs? Oh my god.
You shouldn't mess around with my stuff. It makes me nervous.
Sir.
I'm sorry, Todd.
You just stay the fuck out of my business. Unless you want to
I said he was a drug dealer. I called that, right?
You want to piss me off?
No, Todd.
Okay, well, obviously the last model did not get hit by a car. Carbon and hydrogen. It's just a carbohydrate. It's just a carbohydrate. Oh my god. It's just a carb. Damn. God, I've been in the house for like half an hour and I've already been threatened. So that's cool, I guess. What up, small child? You can reread discovered articles? I'm reading about sports? Whoa, what? Connecting the dots, the transport innovation that's shaking up California. The new sub-tube completed its first journey today from Manhattan to downtown LA in under 2 hours, less than half the 5-hour flight time. The top speed of 1,800 mile per hour was made possible because of this tube travels through a depressurized chamber, providing a near frictionless environment for its magnetized motors. For commuters, this raises the tantalizing prospect of finishing a long shift in the Big Apple and putting your feet up on the Golden Coast. That's wild. California's property markets are reacting to suburban prices, have skyrocketed 64%. LA realtor Charlene Lowe says she knows where the new buyers are coming from. They're East Coast types, specifically New Yorkers. They see a chance to keep that New York City salary while enjoying an LA lifestyle, and they're scrambling over each other to take advantage of it. Real estate isn't the only thing shaking up. School places are rapidly filling, and suburban retailers are racking up prices in anticipation of all those New York dollars flooding in. Longtime Californians are expected to be pushed out from the cities, which is why they've been protesting the new line. As one angry demonstrator put it, first Detroit takes our jobs, then New York takes our homes. When's it going to end? Interesting. What did I learn about sports? In its third game of the season, Android pitcher X67 threw a pitch that broke the 120 mile per hour mark. The human batsman wasn't able to swing until after the ball had already reached the catcher's glove. Androids were introduced as a one-per-team innovation, but they've come to dominate team strategy. Every draft seems the major professional baseball teams breaking their own transfer records to purchase the latest Android models, but is the game suffering? That's wild. Head of Fanzine Home Run says fans are becoming disenchanted. The magic of sport is seeing the limits of human potential. A machine breaking these kinds of records just isn't exciting or even surprising. Not everybody agrees. Christopher Lennox, a baseball pundit and ex-pitcher, thinks androids are making the game more exciting. These machines are shaking things up and pushing players to do even better. The game can only survive by evolving. That feels unfair. I wish robots would take our job. It would be like more exciting than AI data centers and hallucinating chatbots. No shit, right? I would rather talk to a fucking sick-ass android than ChatGPT or Claude. Alright.
I've made a good start down here. I'll head upstairs.
Do what you have to do, but stop bothering me.
Oh, this guy's a fucking dick. Okay, we're cleaning upstairs. Credit card application forms, invoices, bank overdrawn accounts, past due. Okay. If I'm going to live in a dystopian future, might as well make it exciting. Yeah, dude, I agree. So far, it's just pretty fucking weak. What's that? Is this man gonna get mad if I clean the upstairs and he doesn't put his fucking drugs away? I'm reading more sports. This is the same thing. American football has largely resisted the spread of Android players, with top-tier games still an exclusively human affair, but that is about to change following CyberLife's recent unveiling of technical demo QB1000, an Android quarterback capable of throwing from end zone to end zone and hitting a target 6 inches wide. The model is also programmed with over 1,500 plays, from classics such as bootlegs and handoffs to more specialized maneuvers, all of which can be adapted in real time. QB1000 was revealed at a recent CyberLife exhibition in Detroit, where the Android manufacturer showed a variety of prototypes designed to show the potential of bleeding-edge technology. But while CyberLife's latest innovation has some fans drooling, Roy Kenstone, founder of the anti-Android fan group, sees a sinister aspect. CyberLife knows exactly what they're doing with this demonstration. They hope to distort our sport the same way they have done with all the others. Despite these reservations, some consider this simply a matter of time. With basketball and baseball already contemplating Android players, an LED sport quarterback might just be around the corner. It's kind of interesting that all the books are like two things. When a driverless vehicle foresees an accident, the car's computer makes life and death decisions. For example, deciding which of the two pedestrians to hit. These exact processes by which cars make these decisions is not very well understood. Martin Forlong of Crown Cars tries to clarify. In these situations, the car's imaging system gathers data to determine the pedestrian's age, gender, life expectancy in the blink of an eye. This data is parsed through the public record to determine marital status, employment record, life expectancy, and whether they have children. The car then assigns a value to each possible victim based on criteria like their contribution to society. We put a premium on lives that will save other lives, like doctors and nurses. All this may sound very reasonable, but Felix Gamble, head of Anti-Automation League, says the system has no right to make such judgments. Somebody with a criminal record is not necessarily less valuable to society than a doctor. That kind of information is irrelevant to the sanctity of human life. Before long dismisses such claims. We want our cars to make the best possible choices, and that means acting on the basis of all the information they can gather. The more the better. Wild. Oh, bye, Carl. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, my friend. This man has got a lot of fucking whiskey bottles in here.
And now to sports. First up, basketball.
I remember Heavy Rain had a lot of stuff like this too, where it was like full shows on all of their TVs. In the 70s, IBM's training manual had a line that said, a computer can never be held accountable, therefore it must never make a management decision. And yet here we are with AI-generated schedules and policy. I mean, I fucking agree with that 100%. Yeah, they have no empathy. They can't, you know, like there is so much more context to a situation other than a black and white choice that a computer would make. And yet, here we are. The cases I've been reading about, like, ChatGPT, AI psychosis are fucking nuts. I was reading one on Reddit the other day where a woman was saying that she was in the process of starting to divorce her husband because he had just gone through such, like, a shift in behavior over the last 6 months, and she had discovered through looking through his ChatGPT logs that he had basically been feeding every one of their arguments into ChatGPT, and the computer was basically, I mean, it affirms whatever user it, you know, is writing in it. So it was just affirming that the guy was right in all scenarios constantly.
Watch it.
This guy's an asshole. It was awful. And then, yeah, basically he just kept getting like worse and worse as the months went on and was like calling her a bitch to the computer, and the computer was like, yeah, she is a bitch. It got wild, so he got really hostile with her, and she was like, I'm not doing this anymore. OpenAI itself just published a paper that confirmed that in 30% of all queries, ChatGPT would make up an answer as I don't know is marked as a 0-point response. I'm genuinely not fucking surprised by that. Anyone that's using AI that blindfoldly is like, you have to believe that it's like, why would you believe it's 100% accurate? Especially if it's just taking stuff off the internet, because like someone could just be out there on the internet just writing the wrong thing repeatedly over and over and over again and feeding that back into ChatGPT, and you say yes enough times and it's gonna be like, yeah, okay, you're right, this guy is purple, I'm a fool. Oh. Sorry, I gotta look at my door. My God, the hospital, I see so many people in the hospital using ChatGPT for things like calculating dates and doses and answering questions about like drugs and news and shit. It is kind of horrifying. It is fucking horrifying. It is very alarming to see how quickly it is just like seeped into everyday work. It was something I was constantly fighting against in my last workplace, where it would reach the point where I would be literally discussing my findings about something that I had researched and gone to training about and knew everything about, and everyone else in the room was just sitting and using like ChatGPT, like Google, to verify like, yes, that's ChatGPT says that's right. There was one person that was using ChatGPT to like create all of their formulas for their statistics in an Excel document, and like the formulas were wrong and the math was wrong. We could see it on the board and we were all sitting there pointing out, being like, that's incorrect. Like, I can't remember what it was. It was a number that would made enough sense that like you could mentally be like, yeah, 100 minus 80 does not equal 40. Like, that's wrong. It should be 20. And we kept being like, yo, the number's wrong. And she kept being like, oh, I don't understand, the data's wrong. And then she just sat there and continued to chat GPT it instead. And she was like, I'll figure it out later. Like, what are we doing? Everyone's making their brains soft. It's okay to use it for some stuff and to like use it as like a jumping off point, but stop smoothing out your brain. Your brain is beautiful. Okay? It needs its ridges. You are a unique and beautiful snowflake, and the things that you come up with in your brain are significantly more interesting than the boring, mundane shit that ChatGPT and all these bots are gonna put out. Just because it looks good doesn't mean it's nice, you know? It's not yours. It's fucking boring. It's palatable. It's spiceless. Like, what are we doing?
Alice in Wonderland. Of course.
Bitch, I love that book. I like that this child has books in 2038. That's good, I guess.
I'm sure we used to be friends before I was reset. Maybe we can be friends again. Your father said you chose my name. Kara. It's nice. How did you choose it? You should tell me about yourself. What you like to do, where you like to go, your favorite foods. That would really help me.
Yeah, and I'm like, even using it to jump off, like, it is plagiarized, which is like that whole other aspect of it. I mean, there's so many
I hope I don't scare you.
areas that you can go into that are negatives related to it, but that's just one facet of it. Like, if you're really gonna use it, at least fucking don't use it for everything. Yeah, I wish AI could do things like my taxes instead. Like, do the basic shit. Don't try and take art and thinking from me. That's illegal. Stop it. Ask Todd for new instructions. Are you up? Oh my god, you scared me. Sorry, y'all. Hold on 1 second. This is okay. No. You put that down. You put that down or she'll help me. Shut up. I am busy. No one likes you, Gary. How do I quickly just... Fuck you.
Oh, there's a fire extinguisher in plain view.
Is it? Is it in plain view, Gary? Is that what I should do? Should I do your job for you, Gary? I'm busy, okay? Being a werewolf, skeleton, and kicking all these pumpkins. Gary. A hell of a steal, so we're just gonna look out for Church and we'll get him something as well. Wow. I blew that man up. Make the toot more points. Well, I mean, I could. We're gonna play all of it. This is the only game that I stream now. It's Alien Isolation, my nightmare. Just get her too stoned and she can't make any progress in the fuck. Motherfuck, fuck. Noich. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Noich. Smoking weed. Smoking joints, drinking beers. Drinking these beers. Rolling fatties, smoking blunts. Who smokes the blunts? We smoke the blunts. Rolling blunts and smoking them. It's me, Pikachu. Pika-pee! No, God fucking Christ. Look at, you're in the whole shot, you shithead. Oh no. Well, now it's ruined. Oh no, my knife. All I have are these books. Oh God, why are you so large? Ma'am? I don't want to! No, fuck no! Duck, dodge, dive, dip, dodge, whip. Duck and weave, motherfuckers. You'll never fucking catch me. Oh God, she's right in front of me! I'm sorry, he turned into a car in his own volition. I would like the record to show that I did not make Will turn into a car. He chose to be a car himself. Damn, I got a lantern, y'all. Oh! Don't push down because he's close to the edge. Oh man. I gotta start putting markers on here, I think. Alright, Jello was the original singer, my bad. How can I call myself punk if I don't even know about Jello from Dead Kennedys?
Dead Kennedy straight up. I don't know who Jello Biafra is. Like, I didn't fucking know that. Like, that's fucking hilarious. You guy. Nah, I'm a poser, dude.
My husband has stolen my Dead Kennedy shirt, and he says I don't even know who Jello is.
Listen, in my defense, she has stolen all of my shirts.
That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm the wife. Oh! Don't population of people. Hi, first. Hello, my friend. You. Oh god, I already look so baked. Damn me. Damn you, marijuana. I'll just hold my eyes open. I'm not high. I'll just give myself the Clockwork Orange treatment. I'm definitely not stoned at all. I'm a very normal person. Sir? I hear him. No! No, I'm on fire! You son of a bitch. Come over here and do that again. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Fuck! Fuck! Stop it. I'm having a really hard time with my button. Stop lighting me on fire! You guys are assholes! Hi, what are you?
Hi.
Are we doing a little hug? Are you guys going for
We
a
were
murder
doing a
hug?
hug.
Are we doing a murder hug? Just a little murder
Thank
hug.
you.
Just a little light murder hug. Yeah, just a little light murder hug. A little light choke. Just a. Uh-oh. No.
What's going on in here?
We're just choking. Just a little light choke.
Come on, y'all.
Just a.
You need a syringe
Oh
for
no,
this.
no, this is not a light choke! I did not consent!
No, we
That works too! No!
That works so well.
I wasn't expecting that! Oh no! Big guy. That guy right there. Hey, sir. Oh my god. Well, he did not want to give me his sword. He was not having it. God damn. Suck a whole butt, Malfoy! Look how much meat we got. We got so much fucking meat. A 10. So we have a pair of 10s and a pair of queens. I'm putting my fucking money in this bitch. Give me your money, hoes. $1.
Let's be brave, all in. Okay, let's do this.
All in, first round, bitches.
Crap. Big pile of nothing.
Okay,
Suck my
sorry.
ass.
We're back now. I had a brief panic. Okay, I'm sitting here, you see, playing games with y'all, enjoying being an android and doing household chores. And I see out of the corner of my eye a person walk down my hallway. And I was like, who the fuck is in my house? Surprise. It was my husband, Danny, who should not be home because he is at work and should be at work for like at least another 2 to 3 hours. But he got something in his contact and I went to take it out at work, and then his backup pair of contacts had like a rip in them or something. So he drove all the way home and got new ones. Anyway, I had a panic because I was like, the dog did not really bark, or maybe I'm just so invested in the game that I did not hear the dog bark. In which case, if I get home invaded on stream, I wouldn't know. I got to keep my headphones off. I'm too anxious for this. Anyway, he's gone back to work now. The android did not replace him, I hope. Unless the android replaced him at work. It was scary. Yeah. AI gets math wrong. AI gets all sorts of shit wrong. Alright. Damn, what was I doing? Yeah, don't step on her book. What's this? I got more coffee while I was up. Pumpkin is distraught that Danny came home and then left again. Okay, we got a 4-leaf clover. Okay, this must have been Mom. Wonder what happened to Mom. Mom looks like she may have been murdered. Or maybe the android? Who? Somebody got hit in the head in that picture. Little girl got hit in the head? And then Dad beats up the android? He broke the android arm? Was it okay. Something hit the little girl. Either the android or Dad. And then that resulted in Dad beating up the android. Which obviously, Kara did not get hit by a car. Alright, well, okay, we understand why little girl's so fucking quiet now, because she's scared of everything. Okay. I've cleaned everything.
What are you doing?
I'm playing.
You're playing. I know what you're thinking. You think your dad's a lowlife? Huh? Fucking loser? Can't get a job, take care of his family? Don't you think I tried to make things work? Or whatever I do, when someone comes along, they just fuck it all up! I know what you think of me.
Bro.
You hate me. You hate me, don't you? Say it! You hate me! God. What am I doing?
Buddy, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know I love you, don't you?
This poor fucking child.
You know I love you.
Interesting crash out indeed. Can we call CPS as a robot? This child needs a hug and a call for CPS. Kara discovers a way down. Interesting. Okay. November 5th, 2038. It is 9:58 a.m. Oh, I'm back to this man. I'm getting off the bus. I got my paints after I got beat up. Creepy. What's that? Who's Carl? Oh my god, there's a bird here? Are you Carl? It's a robot bird? I think I feel better about that than putting real birds in cages. But that also makes me feel weird. Okay. Is there... I would much sooner have a robot bird, I think, over any robot things. I actually, no lie, I really fucking want a robot vacuum. I don't know what it is. I've just had a fascination with Roombas ever since they've come out. I just want one. Yeah, right? Program it to not be a dick and it wouldn't bite you and then you never have to worry about it pooping. That would be good. That's an ideal bird. Take care of Carl. Make Carl upstairs. I'm not a big bird person. I did once meet a little... I don't know if it was a parrot. I feel like it was too small to be a parrot. I had a friend from like my punk rock party days who had some sort of little bird thing. I've got a bunch of pictures of it on my 21st birthday because they kept fucking putting it on me. No, the first time I met that bird was on... It was on one of my Halloweens, the first year I ever dressed up as Harley Quinn. And we went and we did mushrooms at our friend's house and he had this little like lovebird thing. And it kept following me around everywhere and like I didn't like birds. And I had to get over it because I was on mushrooms and this thing just wanted to be my bestie. And it ended up just like sitting on my shoulder and hanging out with me all night. And I was like, alright, you're allowed. Yeah, right? Yeah, kitty litter. That would be cool. Good morning, for Kara.
Carl. Good morning.
Or like a robot kitty litter thing. I don't know if those actually work.
54 degrees.
80% humidity with a strong possibility of afternoon showers.
It sounds like a good day to spend in bed.
I did
Administer
go to pick
Carl's
up the
medicine.
paint that you ordered.
Oh, yes, I've forgotten.
Carl, where's your medicine? Carl.
That is the difference between you and me, right, Marcus? You never forget anything.
That's true, I'm a robot.
Show me your arm, please, Carl.
One of the
No.
robot kitty litter things? I feel
Carl.
like if I tried to get a cat again, I'd have to do something like that.
Thank you.
We briefly took one of the cats in
just
December.
opened my eyes and I'm already gritting my teeth.
And I couldn't get over the litter box. I think we needed more space. It was like a tactile thing. It bothered me. I had to clean it like 3 times a day and it was still
They
gross.
break down so quickly.
I need a robot kitty litter
All
machine
this
instead.
effort to keep them going. Hey, what happened to your clothes?
Oh, it's nothing. Just some demonstrators in the street, Carl.
I got beat up because I'm a
What
robot.
a bunch of idiots. They think they can stop progress by roughing up a few androids? I hope they didn't harm you.
Oh, no, no. They just pushed me around, Carl. I'm fine. Okay. I'll take you to the bathroom now.
I feel like a robot would be smart for this kind of work. Because there is such a huge need for this kind of work, and it is horrifically underpaid. And generally, the people that do end up in it are either very empathetic, genuine people who get burned out and used by the system, or they're horrible people who are trying to use the people in the system. Like, I wouldn't mind doing caregiving again. I've actually kind of thought about it a little bit, but it's like $18 an hour here, man. I don't pay my bills. Alright, Carl. You've been woken, you've had your medicine. We are going onward.
Anything special on the agenda today?
Yes, there's the opening of your retrospective at the Museum of Modern
Where this
Art. The gallery director left 4 messages asking to
Why am
confirm
I
your
going
attendance.
backwards? Why am I going backward? No, why are
I
we
haven't decided
Carl?
yet.
Why are... Carl!
We'll see about that
Stop.
later.
Stop.
What
Stop.
else?
Go forward. Jesus, why am I spinning, Carl?
Just your usual fan mail. I've already answered.
Any news from Leo?
No, Carl. I can call him if you like.
No. No, don't bother.
Where the fuck is the elevator? I couldn't make that turn. I had to go the long way around. It would not let me make that turn. Alright. Why am I doing so many spinnies? Oh, that makes sense. I was like, why would you have stairs when you need to be in a lift like this? But I see he's got this sick-ass lift thing. That makes it much easier. Although I've turned on your birds. That's what happens when you put robot on the job. They glitch and just start spinning. I feel like that would actually fucking happen, right? I'm gonna just smash Carl directly into this fucking glass stuff.
Well, your breakfast is ready. Bacon and eggs, just the way you like them.
Thank you, Marcus.
Which one of these do you go to the middle? Okay, that makes sense. I want bacon and eggs. Where's my robot chef? Actually, I don't. No, robot chef would be kind of cool. I don't know if I want a robot chef. I want like that that microwave thing from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You know, where you stick your head in it and it analyzes whatever you're craving and it just goes boop and it makes it for you. I want that. It would be a stoner's dream. I would just be there every fucking 20 minutes just sticking my head in the oven. You're like, now I want chips. Now I want sushi. Now I want chocolate. Now I want a burger. It would be so good. I get figs?
Thank you, Marcus.
Right? That would be amazing. That's the dream.
Tensions continue to rise in the Arctic since Russia unilaterally declared the region part of its national.
I like cooking. I wouldn't want to necessarily get rid of cooking, but I would like the idea of just like poof what I want in front of me.
Russian flag now flies over the ice field.
I guess having a little robot chef would also do that, but it would be much faster if I could just stick my head in the oven.
Why don't you find something to do while I finish my breakfast?
I shouldn't just stand and stare at you.
Okay, Carl.
Do I have robot hobbies?
The United States would not accept this annexation under any circumstances. Several American destroyers are recorded.
Damn, there's books here. I'm spinning. Why do I keep spinning? Oh, Kabo, great. Great quote. Thank you for that, my friend. That's a good out of context one. That's a wild one. Grand Theft Orange.
Television off.
Why are you mad about the TV?
Mankind is so depressing.
Oh, I see. That's fair.
Nothing but greed, stupidity, and violence. 5,000 years of civilization
I like
just
his
to
mug.
get to where we are.
The little happy face chalk thing. Oh, it's me again. Sorry, are we talking to each other? I'm going upstairs. How can I get up? These stairs don't work. Why are these stairs in the corner? Like, this is poorly fucking... They don't even go anywhere. Who the fuck made these stairs? Hello? They don't even... What is this stupid rich-ass shit? You just build stairs for the aesthetic of... They're in the way of everything, and you can't even reach any of this stuff. You put a... He says, I'll just put my giraffe in the way of the stairs. Fucking bullshit stairs. Can I play the piano? Hell yeah, bitch. Can I rearrange the giraffe instead? Because the giraffe stair situation is making me upset. You should get a goddamn robot in here to rearrange your staircase. Oh my god, I'm playing the piano? Really fast. I'm so good at the robot piano. I'm done.
Something has changed in the way you play. Sometimes I think you have more humanity than most humans.
Because I was just mashing
One day
the
I won't
keys.
be here to take care of you anymore.
Woo!
You'll have to protect yourself.
So good.
And make your choices. Decide who you are and want to become. This world
This is
doesn't
so
like
deep for
those who
somebody
are
that was
different,
just
Marcus.
fucking keyboard
Don't let
catting
anyone tell you who you should be.
everything.
Let's go to the studio.
Bitch, yeah, I was just spat out my coffee. Wow, my robot son. You fuck up like a human. Dude was just letting out his anger from his early. You gotta let it out. You can't bottle that shit up, otherwise you go loco and you become one of those androids that, you know, kill people. I don't want to do that. I want to be one of the androids that makes eggs. And goes spinnies. Whee! Where's your studio, man? Was that the studio? Spinnies. Oh, this is cool.
You have 17
Let's see where we left
Thank
off.
you,
Gifted Hugo
Anonymous.
subscription.
And it went to
Anonymous Hugo gifted
Hugo.
a tier 1 sub to Hugo blah.
I appreciate you gifting that. That's nice of you. You sneaky. Goo-ditter is what I just tried to say. I just tried to say that you were a sneaky goo-ditter. I meant to see sneaky do-gooder, but words are hard. How do I... Remove the shit. Voila. Snooky goo ditter. It doesn't sound good. It sounds bad. This is cool. What a cool little setup to keep painting. Can I just watch you and smoke a bowl for a second? Is that okay, Carl? Snooky go ditter. Go ditter. I can't even say my own quotes right. Thank you, Kabo. I have said it different every time. Gotta keep you on your toes. I did not clean the studio. I just stared at this man and smoked weed.
So, what's your verdict, Marcus?
I like it.
There is something about it. Something I can't quite define.
It's blue.
I guess I like it.
The truth is, I have nothing left to say anymore. Each day that goes by brings me closer to the end. I'm just an old man clinging to his brushes.
Carl.
But enough about me. Let's see if you have any talent. Give it a try. Try painting something.
Paint?
You want me to paint?
Painting what?
Anything.
I'm a
you
robot.
want.
I'm gonna paint Wally.
Give it a try.
Oh my god, please give me an actual control to do stuff. Please let me draw. Find a subject to paint. Where's Pikachu? Paint Zuma blue plot twist. You've been an upgraded pool cleaner the whole time. Oh fuck, what is that from? I just watched that scene on Threads again the other day. Is that Love and Robots? Where that man turns into a pool cleaner? And he just becomes a cleaner again? I'm gonna paint this statue. Yeah, Love, Death, and Robots. Okay, that's what I thought. I need to rewatch that series because it's so good. And I feel like there's always specific ones that stand out to me that I remember, and then I kind of forgot what the fuck? How good overall it is, right? I love me a good anthology series.
That is a perfect copy of reality.
I just
Painting is not
painted
about
that. I just went
replicating the world. It's about interpreting, improving on it, showing something you see.
Carl, I don't think I
Carl.
can do that. It's not in my program.
Go on, go. Try it. Grab that canvas.
Let me paint Pikachu.
Do something for me. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Trust me.
Okay.
Try to imagine something that doesn't exist, something you've never seen. Now concentrate on how it makes you feel, and let your hand drift across the canvas.
Damn, I'm fucking painting. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I painted a thing from my android brain.
Hey, Dad.
Leo,
What up, dude?
I didn't hear you come in.
No, I was in the neighborhood. I thought I'd stop by. It's been a while, right?
You all right?
Looks a
You
little.
don't look so good.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Like a little sussy
Listen,
pot.
I need some cash, Dad.
Plot twist. There's no paint on that dried up ass messy palette. That's
What happened to the
shit,
money
right?
I just gave
At
you?
no point did I pull any paint out.
It just goes, you know?
Yeah, you're on it again, aren't you?
No. No, I swear, it's not that.
No, don't lie to me, Leo.
He's
What
obviously-
difference does it make? I just need some cash, that's all.
Sorry. The answer's no.
What? Why?
You know why.
Yeah, I think I do know why. you'd rather take care of your plastic toy here than your own son, right? Tell me, Dad, what's it got that I don't? Smarter, more obedient, not like me, right? But you know what? This thing is not your son. It's a fucking machine.
Leo, that's enough.
I'm having a bad day.
Enough.
Is a robot. Everyone keep beating me up.
You don't care about anything except yourself and your goddamn paintings. You've never loved anyone. You never loved me, Dad. You never loved me.
Damn, dude. Okay. Leo intruded to ask for money. Interesting. Okay. Next ship there. It is November 5th, 2038. 11:21 p.m. It is at Jimmy's Bar. This robot is Two-Face. It's recording. Wait, is this the little cop guy again? The one that I started as? Yes. The cop Twink, he is very popular at Tumblr.com. I'm not surprised. Scan faces. Oh shit, I found him immediately. I'm good at my job. Who are you? Who are you? Interesting. Okay.
Shit, I thought androids weren't allowed in here.
What up?
What's your problem?
Shut up. I'm
Lieutenant
not
Anderson, my name is Connor. I'm the android sent by CyberLife. I looked for you at the station, but nobody knew where you were. They said you were probably having a drink nearby. I was lucky to find you at the 5th bar.
What do you want?
My name is
You
Connor.
were assigned a case early this evening. A homicide involving a CyberLife android. In accordance with procedure, the company has allocated a specialized model to assist investigators.
Well, I don't need any assistance.
I don't want a robot.
Especially not from a plastic asshole.
I don't need a
Just be a good little robot
partner.
and get the fuck out of here.
I work alone. No.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant, but I must insist.
Android
My
Connor sent by
instructions stipulate that I have to
Cyberlife.
accompany
Chicken nuts.
You know where you can stick your instructions?
No.
Is he gonna tell me at my butt?
Never mind.
Come on, I gotta work
Listen,
here.
I
We
think
work
you
together.
should stop drinking and come with me. It'll make life easier for both of us.
Spill his drink?
I apologize, Lieutenant. I didn't mean to bother you. I'll wait for you outside. Take your time.
I'm gonna stand in the rain for 9 hours.
Did you say homicide?
Oh shit, we have ads starting in 5 seconds. Sorry, I'm really bad at paying attention to this. You will be back in 1 minute. Thank you. Well, that didn't seem successful. Damn, he listened to punk? Hell yeah.
You wait here. I won't be long.
My instructions are to accompany you to the crime scene, Lieutenant.
Listen, I don't give a fuck about your instructions. I told you to wait here, so you shut the fuck up and you wait here.
Damn. Conflicting orders, selecting priority. Interesting. You will be back here in 1 minute. Thank you. Yeah, that's a command. Don't go anywhere.
Douglas from Channel 16. Can you confirm that this is a homicide?
It's
I'm not
illegal.
confirming
It's
anything.
command. I am your Superintendent Bunny. Okay. And the direct command is that you're not allowed to go anywhere, and you have to come back in 1 minute. And it's been a minute. Thank you for coming back. Connor's guy is a Twitch streamer and also plays the living vending machine in the Best West in Cyberpunk 2077. Oh, I haven't gotten very far in that game. I got it on sale for my Xbox, but my Xbox is almost 10 years old now, and whenever I play Cyberpunk, it starts to make really loud noises and get really hot. Okay. I left the car and I'm here to follow you.
Androids are not permitted beyond this point.
Fuck you.
It's with me.
I'm the law.
What part of staying in the car didn't you understand?
All of it.
Your order contradicted my instructions, Lieutenant.
You don't talk, you don't touch anything, and you stay out of my way. Got it?
Got it.
I'm gonna touch
Even
everything.
Hank?
I'm on the
We're
case.
starting to think you weren't going to show.
Yeah, that
Hell
was the
yeah,
plan
Cable.
until
Look at
this
you,
asshole
so productive. Good job, Cable. Wait, where is it?
Bitch, you doing
That's
a
for
good
Cable.
job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Bitch, you doing a good job. Fuck
Android.
Fuck that drink.
Oh, very funny. Just tell me what happened.
I think I just said fuck that laundry, fuck that dress, which is not the lyrics at all, in case anyone was wondering. That's not it. But it is fuck that laundry, fuck that dish. Not that dress.
Smell.
I'm on the case.
It was even worse before we opened the windows.
Oh wow. I am alive. Bruv, I don't think you are.
The victim's name's Carlos Ortiz. He has a record for theft and aggravated assault. According to the neighbors, he was kind of a loner. Stayed inside most of the time. They hardly ever saw him.
Well, state he's in. Wasn't worth calling everybody out in the middle of the night. Could have waited till morning.
I'd say he's been there for a good 3 weeks. We'll know more when the coroner gets here. There's a kitchen knife over here. Probably the murder weapon.
Any sign of a break-in?
Nope. The landlord said the front door was locked from the inside. All the windows were boarded up. The killer must have gone out the back way.
What do we know about his android?
Not
Oh my
much.
god, I forgot about the
The neighbors
yogurt that
confirmed
wants
he had one, but it
Ohio.
wasn't here when
That
we
was a
arrived.
good one. We all need to
I gotta
rewatch
get
that
some air.
apparently. It's a good show.
Make yourself at home.
I just renewed
I'll be
my
outside
Netflix
if you
again
need me.
recently, so I could do that. Okay. I'm on the case. What's this? Oh, it's that weird drug that I found. In Dad's house. The red ice. Victim used drugs. Okay, cool.
Each letter is perfect. It's way too neat. No human writes like this.
We're analyzing the knife. No fingerprints. Is there maybe an android involved? I put the blood in my mouth. That's crazy.
Oh, Jesus, what the hell are you doing?
I'm analyzing the blood. I can check samples in real time. I'm sorry. I should have warned you.
Yeah, because it looks fucking
Okay,
gnarly.
just don't
Where's my bangs
put any
doing
more
now?
evidence in your mouth. You got it?
I'm gonna put all the evidence
Got
directly in my mouth. Those are where my senses
Fucking
are.
hell, I can't believe this shit.
Okay, yeah, it's Carlos's blood. Check. What is this? More blood. Okay, Carlos's.
Chris, was this written in the victim's blood?
I would say so. We're taking samples for analysis.
Oh my god, stop it. Turn around, turn
Red
around.
ice.
Oh my god.
Seems our friend Carlos liked to party.
The Eden Club, come visit us. Y'all, we're going to the strip club.
Chris, I want full analysis on the narcotics.
Consider it done, Lieutenant.
What am I looking at? Blood. Okay.
Hey, Mike, you finished taking samples there?
Yeah, that's it.
Why am I going outside? Okay. I'm analyzing. No, Cabo, I have not seen Obsession yet.
Door was locked
It is
from the
on
inside.
my to-watch
Must have gone out
list.
this way.
I think it
There are
was
no
in
footprints apart
Hitchy's
from
stream.
Officer
I was
Collins'
chatting
size 10
with them and
shoes.
Hugo about
Well, this
needing
happened
to
weeks
watch
ago.
that. I was telling
Tracks
Jenny
could've
that we need to
faded.
go and see it because it's still in
No,
theaters here.
This type of soil would retain a trace.
I really want to.
Nobody's been out here for a long
Have
time.
you seen it yet? Suspect did not escape outside. Okay, what else we got here? Some more blood. Spin it around and analyze. Okay, more Carlos's blood. This is. Okay. Carlos through chair. Signs of a struggle. Android sex officially better. The results of our surveys and its official 68% of men prefer sex with an android to real women. And with 52% of men saying they've tried the experience at least once, there's a lot of android left to go around. There were a few reasons given for this preference, but we think we know the real reason. Androids don't want to talk about their feelings afterwards. Okay. Tech addict. Is your android spying on you? Yes. More and more experts are suggesting that CyberLife uses its 120 million androids to record details of private conversations of its customers and sell them to trading partners. Ever talked about buying that new car while eating dinner with your partner? CyberLife could use that information for targeted advertising. The information goldmine doesn't stop there. Everything from personal indiscretions to political affiliations could easily be extracted and potentially used for nefarious purposes. The spate of records of reports linking Warren's presidency to CyberLife only deepens such concerns. Several consumer rights organizations have requested that CyberLife disclose the information it gathers and who it sells that information to, but the company has always refused. Requests for a formal inquiry have gone unanswered. Well, that seems awfully fucking suspicious. Alright. What's this? We're missing the knife here. Murder weapon was taken from here. Okay. What else we got? What's this baseball bat? Dent. Traces Ethereum? Did this man hit a robot? Okay, there's his fingerprints on it. Deviant took a knife. Okay. Deviant was attacked. Emotional shock. Okay. So this man got murdered by a robot, it looks like. Why was he beating his robot with a baseball bat? That's a great question, team. Get out of my way, CSI guy. I'm a robot and I got shit to do. Get out of my way, CSI guy. CSI guy, get out of here.
What's keeping the car? You should have been there.
What's in the air? Opens the shower. Obsessive writing everywhere. Okay. Oh, what's that? Oh, what is that? Some sort of shrine? Is this man schizophrenic? Religious offering. Okay, I'm missing one piece of evidence somewhere.
Come on, guys, get a move on. We don't want to be here all night.
Don't worry.
Maybe the
No
I
one
gotta
wants
look
to
at the
stay here a
victim
minute longer
still.
than they have to.
Maybe it's this one we need to look at still, yeah. Okay. Regular letters, cyber life sales. Okay. Let's look at the victim. Okay, he'd been stabbed a lot. 28 knife wounds. Deceased more than 19 days ago. Holy. Looking pretty good all together. Okay. He had red ice. Okay, so he was doing these drugs too. And then he beat up his robot? Interesting. Okay, we're reconstructing the scene. Victim fell. Okay. Victim was stabbed. Okay. Okay, they came from the kitchen. Alright, so...
He was stabbed 28 times.
Yeah. Seems like the killer really had it in for her.
Alrighty, let's review our evidence.
I think I figured out what happened.
Oh, yeah? Shoot, I'm all ears.
It all started
In the kitchen.
in the kitchen.
There are obvious signs of a struggle. The question is, what exactly happened here?
I think the victim attacked the android
With the bat.
with the bat.
That lines up with the evidence. Go on.
The android stabbed the victim.
Yeah.
So the android was trying to defend itself, right? Okay, then what happened?
The victim fled to
The living room.
The living room.
I tried to get away from the android.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that makes sense.
The android murdered the victim with the knife.
Yeah, 28 stabs, man. That'll do it.
Okay. Your theory's not totally ridiculous, but it doesn't tell us where the android went.
It was damaged by the bat and lost some therium.
Lost some what?
Therium. You call it blue blood. It's the fluid that powers androids' biocomponents. It evaporates after a few hours and becomes invisible to the naked eye.
Oh. But I bet you can still see it, can't you?
Heck yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go search for some blue blood. I found the blue. Okay. Going this way. And then it goes this way. A ladder was used. The traces lead to the attic. Let's see what this is too, just to be safe. Okay. Alright, so it's in the attic? What am I doing now? Oh, find something to climb on. What do you... Oh, okay.
Hey, what are you doing with that chair?
I'm going to check something.
Gonna check something.
Ooh. Ooh. Spoopy. Oh, I love media that you find something new every time you rewatch it or replay it. It's like, you know, when it's done very well. Good details, right? Oh my gosh. Hello.
I was just defending myself. He was gonna kill me.
Okay, you stabbed him a lot though, babe.
I'm begging you. Don't tell him.
Connor, what the fuck is going on up there?
It's here, Lieutenant!
Oh, shit. Chris, Ben, get your asses in here now! Come on!
We found it. Ooh. Okay. Okay, we found the deviant in the attic. Oh, I missed something. Interesting. Okay, my friends, I think I might save and call it for right there because it's almost 1:30 and I'm getting peckish. So I'm just gonna hope that it's saved as a wrap up because that makes sense to me, right? Yeah, I love games that give us the post chapter analysis and tells us all the options. It gives me so much more initiative to go back and play again to be like, what do you mean I missed this whole possibility? I didn't even know it was a thing. Okay, friends, I'm gonna put myself over here. We're gonna see who is online to raid into today. And I'm gonna go make myself some lunch. Oh my gosh, there's so many people playing Moonlight Peaks. That game is so freaking cute, and I'm trying really hard not to purchase it for myself because I do not need any other games right now. But I want it. Oh. Let's go see Batsy. I wonder... Yeah, she's still on right now. Okay. She's playing the boba tea shop right now. It's Batsy, somebody that I have met from Threads, and she's spoopy, and I like her vibes, so we're gonna go over there. Thank you everyone for hanging out with me today. This was fun. I really enjoyed this game, and I'm excited to get back into it. I'm very pleased that it graphically worked okay and didn't get upsetty, because it seemed kind of dicey for a moment there. I will be here tomorrow evening, probably sometime between 5 p.m. MST and 6 p.m. MST. I am going to be starting a brand new horror game. We're going to start The Quarry tomorrow, and I'm fucking excited for it. So that's going to be another game kind of like this where we're sitting and watching together and making decisions. So it's a really good lurker-friendly kind of game. I'm going to give y'all a little raid message that you can copy if you so desire. And I probably should realistically actually save this as a command. Ooh, does The Quarry have Twitch mode? I'll have to look into it. I don't know if there's going to be shaders, blood. There might be. You'll have to tune in and find out, except that it'll be a weird time for you, so it might be hard for you to tune in. Anyway, thank you friends for hanging out. Thank you for hanging, chatting, lurking, subbing, you know, taking time out of your day to come and fucking kick it with me. I appreciate you. Take care of yourself. Go get food. Go get water. Have a stretch. Okay? Bye.